So, what exactly should you expect from a budget-priced action camera? Let's take a look. Hi, and welcome to the Gadget Talk channel, where we do reviews and how-tos on a variety of cool electronic gadgets that catch my eye. If you find this video helpful, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel. In this video, we're going to look at the Campark model ACT74A budget-priced action camera. As we get started, we need to ask the question, why mess with a budget-priced action camera anyway? There are a couple of answers to that question. First, you may simply want to get a couple of them to allow several members of your family to shoot video on a vacation, celebration, or other outing from their perspective. You can get fairly good video for not a lot of money, so buying several cameras or adding to your collection might be a smart move. Next, you may have an expensive action camera, but the activity you have planned is risky enough that you don't want to risk ruining a $500 camera. An inexpensive action camera like the ACT74A balances the risk-reward equation. Last, this might be your first excursion into the world of action cameras, and you simply don't want to spend a bunch of money on what is essentially an experiment. I first got a Campark ACT74 way back in 2016. I was pleased with the camera, but unfortunately a drop resulted in a tiny chip in the lens that placed a small distortion in all the video it recorded. Bummer. Now, the Campark brand gets consistently good reviews for cameras in this category. Since my first ACT74, I've purchased the Campark X40, a Campark V30, as well as a couple of other cameras from brands like Picasso. In looking for a recently released camera for a review, I noticed my old friend, the Campark ACT74, had been upgraded and was now listed as the ACT74A. This upgraded model seems to have made its debut on Amazon in late 2021. With coupons, the camera and a couple of micro SD cards came in at under $60. Let's do a quick review of the key features before taking a look at what comes in the box. First, let's take a look at your resolution options. The camera has choices for 4K at 30 frames per second, 2.7K at 30 frames per second, and 1080p at both 60 and 30 frames per second. It also has a choice for 720 at 120 frames per second for ultra slow motion at this lower resolution. On the photo side, you can shoot 20, 16, 12, 8, and 5 megapixels still photos. For those of you who are new to action cameras, this is a pretty typical resolution range. Normally, you would set a resolution that matches how you intend to use the photo. For online use, lower resolutions will work well, and the resulting photo files will be much smaller. If you plan to print large versions of the photo or are planning to zoom into just a portion of the shot in your editing software, higher resolutions will likely produce better results. The camera comes with a standard accessory pack and 2 batteries. What's a bit unusual for cameras in this ultra-low price range is that it comes with an external microphone as well as a wrist-mounted shutter controller. What you won't get is a touchscreen or waterproof rating without the included clear plastic case. Additionally, the camera's electronic image stabilization is not available in the 4K 30 resolution. 2K, yes, 4K, no. So, with all that in mind, let's see what you'll get and do a quick tour of the menus. So here's the accessories that come with the ACT74. First is the owner's manual or the user guide here. It's pretty good. I mean, these action cameras are all pretty much the same, and so it covers most of the important things that you're going to want to know. Most of these accessory kits, regardless of the brand, are pretty much the same, and so they have a number of common things. This is a cage or a clip type mount. It has the quarter 20 screw sockets here, so you can mount the camera in there, as the camera doesn't have a quarter 20 on it. So that would allow you to put it on a selfie stick or that kind of thing. Here's just a tether, some 3M sticky pads for permanent mounting these type of mounts here. They have a sticky pad on the back of them already, so you could use this to mount it on a helmet or that kind of thing. There are a couple of basic GoPro style mounts. This is called a J-hook. It clips into mounts like this by just sliding it in, and then you can use these various extenders and reversers to change the direction of the camera if you need to set up a particular angle. There's a bicycle clip. Here's another just kind of mount here if you wanted to mount the waterproof camera case to it. This can come off, just slide it off, and then you could mount it here if you needed to make a change. So there's just a variety of things that you can do to get this to work. Here is a back door to the camera waterproof case. This is not a spare door. It is a different kind of door. You can maybe see through the plastic. There are two openings here. So if you were going to be out on a kind of a muddy day or a splashy day, and you still wanted to be able to record sound via the camera, you may want to replace that door. It would allow the noise of around you to get into the camera case, but it's not going to keep it waterproof. So you need to make sure that if you make that swap, you swap the waterproof case back in if you're going to take it into the pool or snorkeling or that kind of thing. Now, there are two other things here that I want to point out that are unique and comprehensive to this little action camera, and that is the remote to start and stop. The gray is for photos, the red is for photos, the gray is for video, and then it comes with a little Velcro strap that you can use to strap it to your wrist or around some other kind of a pack strap or that kind of thing. And then the other is the external microphone. Now, it's a kind of a big microphone, but a lot of times cameras in this price range don't come with microphones, and so that is a particularly neat feature. The other thing that I point out to you here that I'll show you when we get to the camera is that this particular mic is not using a micro USB type connector. It's got what appears to be about a 2.5 millimeter plug, and so we'll see that on the camera itself. It's got a round hole for the external mic, so you're not going to be able to use this across a wide variety of cameras unless they're using the 2.5 millimeter plug. So that's kind of a unique aspect to this particular camera. So that's an overview of the accessories. Now let's turn our attention to the camera. So here's a look at the Campark ACT74A. It says it's the Extreme 1 Plus Ultra High Def 4K. On the front, of course, is the lens and the power and mode button. On the bottom, we have the camera battery door here. There's a little latch here that you can pull to get the battery there into the camera. The camera comes with two batteries, which is kind of handy. If we look over here, we see the various inputs that the camera has. Here's the round hole for the microphone that I just mentioned to you. This is a micro HD port, so that you can connect this with the appropriate not included cable to a TV. Here is the SD card that is mounted. You're going to want to format the SD card in the camera, not in a computer. and then a micro USB input there that will fit the cable that comes with the accessory kit. And you're going to probably want to be using that primarily as a charge port. I know for me personally, I find it's a lot quicker to remove the SD card and put it in a little sleeve and download video into my computer directly. And so I use the micro USB port primarily as a charge port. So there's no capacitor or alternate battery in the camera, which means that if you take the battery out to charge it or swap out with the other battery, you're going to have to go in and reset the date. It doesn't have the capacity to remember the date. And so charging the camera via the USB cable here is probably going to be an easy way to, avoid having to go into the menus and make changes that way. On the top of the camera, there's a little blue light that will indicate Wi-Fi status, and there's the OK button, which is the shutter, but it's also the select button for the various menu items. It's right there. And then over here, we've got the up and down, which allows you to maneuver in the menu system, and the up button will also turn the Wi-Fi on. And we're again at the bottom here. Notice there is not a quarter 20, which is why that little cage accessory. With this particular camera, it might be something that you want to keep with you. And then on the back is the screen, and we'll power that up here in just a second. You've got some LED indicators right here that indicate power and recording. So let's turn the camera on and take a look at what we're going to see. That didn't take long to boot up. It powered right on up real quick, and it moved into the default setting, which is the video and 4K 30 frames per second, which you can see there at the top of the screen. You also see the Wi-Fi is off, that there is what's called a TF card, that's the micro SD card, and then it shows you the battery status. Here it shows you the date and time. I've had this on already, so I've had that set, and it also shows that the microphone is on. So if we want to make any kind of changes to this, we're going to use the mode button on the front. So a quick press. Now we're in photo mode, and you can see that we are in the 12 megapixel range for the resolution for the photos. There are no files. I haven't done any recording. There's no pictures. I haven't done any recording, but this is where you would do playback for either video or for photo. And then here we're into our video settings. So let me make sure I've got this pointed up at the camera so you can see these menus. And so we're going to, here we can see the highlight on the video resolution, and we can now move down to whether the electronic image stabilization is on or off, whether we're looping video, whether we're going to do time-lapse video, slow motion video, whether we want the microphones on. Video resolution, again, is at the top, so we've gone all the way through. Now, if we want to work on video resolution, we'll press the button on the top, and then now we can cycle through the various choices: 4K, 2K, 1080 60, 1080 30, and 720 by 120 frames per second. Again, then we can press the mode button on the top of the camera again. Now we can go to EIS by just pressing the down button. Press EIS. You get two choices, on or off. We're going to turn it on. Looping video, it's off, leave it off. And then here at the bottom, we can scroll through our settings. So these were our video settings. The little camera is yellow, so that's what we were in. We want audio record on, so we've selected that. And so now the next thing we're going to do is press the button in front again, and that'll give us our photo settings. You see the little camera turned yellow, and just like before, we're going to use the up and down buttons to work our way through the camera choices, in this case the resolutions, time lapse, or burst. Again to the front. And now we've got some general settings. We can set the volume, we can have the beep on, we can make changes to our exposure or EV. That's a way of darkening the picture if it's a really bright day, or adding exposure if you're kind of in a dark, cloudy day or in a dark area. We can make changes to our ISO. There are a lot of choices there. I've got it on auto. That's what I want. We can add some effects to this. Let's look at that quickly. We can do normal, sepia, black and white, or the negative. I'm going to leave it at normal. Most folks will leave the effects off and add effects in post-production or with your photo editing software. Here we can change the contrast, saturation, and sharpness. These are all just digital settings available to you within the camera. So again, we'll touch the front. Now we've come to system setting. It's the little yellow wrench. And so we can go our language. We can turn our car mode on and off. In car mode, it'll record in 3-minute segments, and you can use it as a dash cam. You can set the time limit for when it powers down without any action on your part as the camera operator. We can set the date and time. We can set the date and time format, and then we can turn the timestamp on and off. Generally, I find timestamps on video makes it very hard to edit and is distracting, so I'll leave that off. And you can see here that there are 4 pages of stuff here. So we're on page 2. On page 3, we can change the frequency. The frequency is the cycle of the electricity in your part of the world. Here in the United States, it's 60 hertz. And so by telling the camera it's 60 hertz, it can filter out some of the flickering, especially with fluorescent lights. Upside down is really cool. I've got it off here, but know that it's in your system setting. So if you've got the camera on a selfie stick and you want to hold it down by your feet and record along a path or some other creative kind of shot that you want to take, turning it off or on, depending on what you're doing, is really pretty cool, as opposed to having to reverse the video in your video editing software. Screensaver is set for 30 seconds. Here you can format your SD card. This is where you need to do it, not in your computer, as I said earlier. We can reset to the factory default, and then we can check our firmware version. So that's number 4 of 4. And then push on the front button again. And then we're going to press the shutter button to exit. You can see that we've got the little reverse arrow there, so we'll exit our settings. With the tour complete, let's take the camera out and shoot some video and some still photos. Since what you see on YouTube is based on your device and browser settings, what you see and what you hear me saying might diverge a bit. So here we are in an area near my house. We're going to be kind of walking through some of these desert plants. Across the street is a school where some kids are out playing soccer or softball or something. You can probably hear them. I'm recording into a Tascam where there's a little bit of wind out here, and I'll switch back and forth to the audio from the Tascam and the camera itself. This is 4K 30. The EIS is not on with this setting. This camera doesn't do EIS in 4K. So now I'm cheating a little bit. I've got the 4K 30. The EIS is off in this mode, but I've got it connected to a Hohem iSteady Pro 3 gimbal. And so you can see you can get some smooth shots, but you'll need to have a separate device. In this case, the gimbal. Here's the 2K by 30 frame rate resolution with the EIS on. I'm just making that same walk through the gravel here with these nice desert plants. And I'll be alternating the audio between my Tascam digital recorder, which has got a furry wind cover on it, and the camera, which doesn't, here on a day with a little breeze. So we're in this same area. We're at 1080 with 60 frames per second, the EIS on, and again I'm just hand holding the camera. So again, hand holding the camera, no special walk in fairly flat ground. A mix of sun and shade to get a chance to see what the recordings look like here at 1080p. In this recording, we're back to 1080p 30. The EIS is off, but the main purpose of this clip is to get a sense of what the external microphone sounds like with this camera. I've got it clipped to the placket of my shirt, just 4 or 5 inches below my chin. So if you've watched some of my other camera reviews, you recognize this scene. It's a park near my home. It's kind of a combination of shade and bright light, so I thought I'd walk through that for you just a little bit to get a sense of changing light and the intensities of the colors and the other things. I'm at 1080p 30 with EIS on, and I'm walking on a sidewalk, so hopefully it's a little smoother. What I noticed is that the video is okay for a camera in this price range. The 4K video was very jumpy. There are 2 reasons for this. First, I was hand holding the camera by itself. These small cameras are so light that holding them steady can be a challenge. You're better off using a handle of some kind to give you something to hold onto, and that adds a little weight so that your muscles have something to push against as you work to hold it steady. As you saw with the shot using the gimbal, the 4K video was much better with the gimbal's external stabilization. You can get small action camera gimbals for under $100. If 4K is not an issue for you, a good grip or handle along with EIS will be okay for the lower resolutions. Basically, these little low-price cameras don't do very well in low-light settings. If you know you'll be shooting in a low-light setting, such as a restaurant or a bar, go into the manual settings and increase the exposure variability and the ISO. Remember, though, that higher ISO also results in more digital noise in your shot. If you're thinking about using this as a dash cam in the camera's car mode, you're probably better off looking for a dedicated dash cam, although this will work in a pinch. So, what's the verdict on the video? In my opinion, the 4K without a gimbal is pretty useless, as the EIS with these little lightweight cameras is necessary. With the gimbal it was better, but there was still some jerkiness. I attribute that to the data throughput between the image sensor and the image processor. 4K really stresses these little components, and at this price point, you're getting a budget chipset. At 2K and 1080p, the video was pretty good, and with a gimbal would have been even better. As I mentioned before, mounting the camera to a handle of some sort adds some weight, making it easier to hold steady. At 720p, 120 frames per second, the video was noticeably less sharp. Now let's take a quick look at the camera's app. So here's a view of the X74's phone app. Little starburst here will take you to the recordings that are on the camera, the photos and the videos, and you can download them. They're selectable and that kind of thing. And then in the settings, you can press the gears and you can make changes to the resolution, 4K to 2.7 and so forth. You can make changes to the white balance, for auto, daylight, cloudy, various fluorescent bulb settings, and incandescent. And you can also make changes to the exposure variability, going less if it's real bright and going more if it's kind of dark. And then you can format the SD card. But that's about it. You know, there's not a lot of access to all the other menus that are available in the camera, but it'll get some of those basic things done. The picture there is what's showing through the camera. I've just got it pointed out the window through a window screen, so that's why it's a little fuzzy. The ACT74A is pretty much as I remember my older ACT74. It's a budget-priced camera with better than average video from what I've seen at this price point. Is this a GoPro level quality? No, not at all. The hype about $60 GoPro killers is just that, hype. On the other hand, it holds its own in the budget price category. With some attention to the various camera settings to fine-tune exposure variability, or EV, and going into the menus for things like ISO and the addition of a good grip or even a gimbal, you'll get some respectable video. As you heard, the external mic did okay even on a breezy day, and with the wrist-mounted shutter triggers and the camera's app, you'll probably be pleased with your results. Again, for a $60 camera. I went back and reviewed the videos I've taken with my Campark V30 and X40 cameras. There's really no comparison. The V30 and X40 are much better in all categories. If you can swing the extra $40 or so, I'd do it. I was shocked to see the Campark V30 with a 50% off coupon as I record this in April of 2022. That brings that camera down to the same range as the ACT74A. It's a much better choice. So, is the ACT74A a loser? No, not at all. It's just a budget-priced camera with slightly better than average budget-priced video and a nice accessory kit. As I mentioned in the opening to this video, the ACT74A might be a good choice for the kids' vacation camera or poolside camera for the backyard. For an older student or adult getting into action cams, I'd go up to about the $100 to $130 price point. The Campark V30 and X40 are both nice cameras at that level. Hey, if you found this video helpful, please click the thumbs up button below the video and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel. Click the bell icon to be notified when I post new videos. Thanks for watching.